Hi everyone, this is Miss Moriarty, and I'm here to discuss with us our continuation of concept number two, right? Looking at the structures inside of a cell that we know of as organelles. Now, in class, we already discussed several types of organelles that we tend to find in eukaryotes, while some we can also find in prokaryotes as well, such as like our ribosomes. However, things like the nucleus, the smooth, the rough, right, all of those organelles are found more so in our eukaryotic cells. So, continuing to discuss some of those organelles, one is known as the lysosome. These are small organelles that are filled with digestive enzymes that can help to break down macromolecules like lipids, carbohydrates, or proteins into their much smaller counterparts, or monomers, that then can be used by the rest of the cell. Lysosomes can also be used to break down old organelles, right? Ones that maybe have outlived their usefulness, and so they are engulfed by the lysosome and broken down by the digestive enzymes. Most animal cells, if not all, contain lysosomes, while very few types of plant cells actually contain our lysosomes. So usually we err on the caution of plant cells really not having lysosomes, while animal cells do. Looking to the part of the cell known as the cytoskeleton, kind of similar to our structural skeleton that makes up our skeletal system, right? Gives us that structure, right? Allows us to stand upright, kind of performs the same function for our eukaryotic cells. So it gives our cells their shape and internal organization and is usually made up of proteins. The certain parts of our cytoskeleton can not only create that structure for our cells, but can also serve as a network within the cell that can help to transport materials to different organelles. A type of cytoskeleton is one known as microfilament. These are very thread like structures made up of a protein called actin. They are responsible for movement, right? This is how we might see types of cells known as amoebas can move throughout their environment. It's through the expanding and contraction of the microfilaments. We can also see microtubules. These are a type of cytoskeleton made up of a protein called tubulin. These microtubules aid in cell division. They can help cell with its shape and can also build structures known as cilia, which are kind of like hair-like structures found in the outer parts of cells, or flagella, which is the tail-like structure we see in some cells that require movement. How about the cell wall? Right? We know that the cell wall helps to support, shape, and protect our cells. Most prokaryotes and eukaryotic plant cells are going to contain a cell wall. Cell walls, though, are porous, meaning that they have tiny little holes that will allow certain materials like water, oxygen, carbon dioxide to easily pass through the cell wall and eventually through the cell's cell membrane. Cell walls provide lots of strength, especially for plant cells. This is what can enable a plant as it grows to stand upright against gravity. Right, coming to our last two organelles, right? What is the function of chloroplasts? These are very, very specialized organelles found within eukaryotic plant cells that help to capture sunlight, convert that sunlight energy into chemical energy, such as glucose, right, or carbohydrates. Plants and some other organisms, right, might contain chloroplasts. And within the chloroplast itself is actually a very specialized internal structures, right? Notice they have small discs that are specialized to capture sunlight. And within those discs is the pigment known as chlorophyll, which tends to give our plants their green structure. But chlorophyll is actually specialized to absorb sunlight energy, specifically for photosynthesis. Now, on to the very last organelle that we're going to discuss today, and that is going to be the mitochondria. Now, remember, the mitochondria's job is to take that chemical energy stored in food, maybe like glucose, and convert that into a compound known as ATP. That is a form of energy that our cells are able to use. All eukaryotic cells, including both plant and animal, are going to contain mitochondria. Similar to our chloroplast and how they have very specialized structures within the organelle, same goes for the mitochondria. They actually have two membranes, similar to our chloroplast, an outer and an inner membrane, that help to work to create that kind of ATP energy. We can see the inner membrane happens to be folded up inside the organelle, as you can see here. All right, everyone, that is it for our video on concept number 2. There is still a little bit left to this concept that we're going to be talking about next week. Make sure that in class tomorrow, you are ready to discuss what was covered in this video.